Hi, my name is Marcio. I work at Get Your Guide. I'm from Berlin, born and raised in Brazil, now working at Get Your Guide in Berlin. And tonight, I'm going to speak about how we deploy and integrate our mobile apps with Travis CI. This is a little overview what I'm going to speak tonight. First, who we are, what is Get Your Guide, what's the problem we faced, our requirements, the solution, the final result, and how can we improve from that. Okay, for those who doesn't know, Get Your Guide offer tours activities around the world. We, for example, if you want to go to Paris, go to Eiffel Tower, and then you want to buy tickets for the Eiffel Tower, you can go on our website or our mobile apps. You can find something there. It's basically a marketplace for tourist activities. And we are available on multi-platforms. So we have for iOS, Android, and of course web. Okay, the problem. This is what I like to call the developer happiness graph. Every developers like to develop, of course. We also like to run tests, no? Yeah. Configure, yeah, we have to do it. Build and write release notes, have to upload, notify users, blah, blah, blah. It's very repetitive. It's a manual task, and we are developers. You want to automate that, right? We also want to make that fit in our workflow. However, we have some requirements that we're going to face it. First is, every time someone pushes something to GitHub, I want that to whatever CI I'm going to use to be able to identify that someone pushed something, build that, generate a binary, and this binary can, of course, should be downloadable. So if someone wants to download and test the app, it should be ready. So yeah, this is our basic scenario. So when my friend and colleague Fabio push something to GitHub, I want Travis or whatever to build and give me a binary. Look a little bit deeper, we also use Git flow. So how many of you use Git flow here? Okay, more or less half of it. So yeah, we use more or less a Git flow. It's, of course, we use what suits for us. So for example, when, again, my colleague pushed something to develop, I want that to execute 2 builds. I want to archive and to generate 2 binaries. One with our, we like to call alpha, that has our test API. Another one with our live API. So it's basically our environment. So if he wants to, for example, as I mentioned, we are a marketplace. So if he wants to buy something and I want to use like a dummy credit card number, I can use with our test API. And if I want to really book something to make sure everything is fine, I can use the beta one with the live API. Okay, and if he push something to a release branch, so for example, after he finished whatever he was working on it, and then he wants to ship it to develop, and I want, for example, the product manager want to check if everything is fine, we also want to generate another pair of binaries so he can test it. So we're gonna have 4 binaries at total. One is with the develop, so if someone is working on something is not finished, it will be there, or if something's finished and the product manager wants to check, he can just go on the release and then it will be there. And of course, if you push something to master, I want that to execute 1 build, archive, and ship it to App Store. So cool. A little overview. So yeah, we have 2 environments basically. One is the test, the other one is the live one. We want every time someone push something, I want Travis be able to hear that and act according to the branch. And I don't want to do anything manual. Of course, we are developers, we want to automate that. So there are some solutions on the market that can help us that. First one is Xcode server. So I had some experience before the Xcode server. I set up some stuff. It worked okay, but still we need something for Android. We also want one solution also for Android. So that supports also Android. Okay, so no Xcode server. Jenkins looks great. We can do all kinds of stuff we want to do it. There's also a big community, but also we don't want to have a computer that you have to maintain. And so, sorry Jenkins, not you. Ship.io. Ship.io was at first was a great impression. They offers very like out-of-the-box solutions. You just hook with your GitHub and builds. You don't have to care about anything else. Awesome, but they're still very new, and there's also like a big community involved on them. So we decided to take a look on other options, and then we saw Travis. Travis offered more or less everything we wanted that we had the requirements, and they're also from Berlin, so we want to support our locals, right? Okay, let's work on the solution. A little bit about Travis. Travis, everybody here knows what Travis is, or? Okay, so yeah, Travis hosts a continuous integration solution. Lets you define SDK if you want to build for whatever simulator, or for the iPhone, it's already hooked with GitHub. You can do a simultaneous build, so it's also very cool, and it's available for Android. Get started with our Travis. So the first thing is we need to define a Travis YAML file and add these on your repo. And the basic thing you're gonna need is to say, hey Travis, this is Objective-C project, this is the path for my project, Xcode proj, and this is my shared scheme. This is the basic stuff. So Travis will identify, okay, we know how to proceed that. But I also want to generate binaries for my phone. For those who work with iOS knows that, now with iOS 9, maybe we're not gonna need that anymore, but before, if you want to generate a binary that you can upload to your phone, you have to use the iPhone SDK, not the simulator. And first, you have to define some keys, import some keys, provision profile. How many of you have this provision profile hell and importing keys on iOS? Yeah, it's a very common problem. So Travis is not going to be so different, because also Travis, every time you have a new build, it's a new instance of that machine. So different than Jenkins and other stuff, once you already import something, it's going to be there, but not Travis. Every time you want to set up something, you have to import all over again. So we should define a script for that. So first thing is create a keychain. You have to make the keychain a default. You have to import your developer and your distribution certificates and keys. And you have to also import also the provision profile. And the worst part is everything here needs to be on your project. So if you have, for example, an open source project and you have some keys there, of course you don't want to leave for everybody to see it. So you're also going to have to take care about encrypt those files. So it's not so easy if your GitHub repository it's open. But a good thing is, so if you have a closed repository, you can also encrypt some environment variables, which comes for free on Travis. And then it's very easy to set. If you want to use it, you can just download the Travis tool belt on your computer, and then you define whatever environment variable you want to encrypt, and you can just press. You can just add as an option. And this will automatically include on your Travis YAML file. So for example, here we had our key distribution password, and this how it's going to look in our Travis YAML file. So at least we don't have to worry about this anymore. Okay, cool. So we have these importing key. We are importing our keys. Everything's secure. We also define a script to run. So as you can see, XC2, we're gonna find the workspace, also the shared scheme. We want to use iPhone SDK. Awesome. We can build something now. But as I said before, I want to also to react on the branch I am, but this is not doing that. So I will again define another script called build app or whatever that will mainly check if it's a pull request. So if it's a pull request, just run the tests and get over it. If it's not, I check if it's a release. So if it's a release, I add a little suffix on the bundle identifier. Otherwise, just build alpha and beta. So for example, here I have my bundle identifier, and at the end I define this environment variable. And then if it's on a release branch, just gonna add the suffix, otherwise it'll be empty, so it's fine. Another cool stuff about Travis is, as I said, you can do parallel buildings. So for example, here I'm defining a configuration for my build, which could be release or debug, whatever. And so Travis allows me to have a matrix of stuff. I don't know why they call matrix. They should just call parallel, whatever. So if you take a look here on our app build config, I define for one environment variables 2 values. And every time I do a concurrent build, you're going to execute the 2 builds, one with each value of the environment variable. So it's a very good for speed. So if you want, for example, before we had 30 minutes, now I have 15 minutes every time I ship something to develop or release. Okay, now we want to archive and ship it. First thing is generate our IPA. We use Xcode run. We also want to have automatically generate our release notes. Here is just a very quick snippet, so you can say, hey, give me my Git log since 1 week. You can also add some nice formatting here, which is cool. And then using curl, just ship it to Hockey app, passing the where is everything, and this goes directly to Hockey app. Okay, cool. Now we are set. We define our custom build per branch. We are porting our keys, so cool. We can ship it. We can have something that we can actually test it. Awesome. And we can also make this have all the scripts out of our project. So every time, this is another pain. Every time you do something different on your environment variable config file, you have to make sure you change something on the project so that would trigger again, and then you can see the result. That's it's after you're doing that. If you want to do something more specific, it takes a long time. It's a pain, but you can also define these as another repository with your scripts. You can use submodule, which is cool. Sometimes not so well. It's easy to maintain. It's easy to reuse. But you still have to, every time you ship something, every time you push something to GitHub, you still have to download these scripts and run everything. Okay, this is our result. We have 5 different apps. We didn't do any manual configuration. Everything is set, depends which branch. It looks very cool. For example, this is my colleague. At the end, that's what he can download. And for example, product manager want to test something, you already have everything on Hockey app. Or the designer want to check how was the last piece that he worked, that we worked on it, if it's okay according to him. Awesome. A little bit about improvement. So the first time I gave this talk, everything I had to define in a very, very painful way for me, because I'm not a proficient guy on shell script. I don't know how many of you are, but it's not my thing, shell script. So I also have to include the provision profiles in the project. Again, shell script, you can't scale. And we also were very hooked to Travis. Everything was on Travis. So for example, we had this issue when Suite 1.2 came out officially. We had official on our Xcode, but Travis didn't have the support yet, and they had troubles with that. Also, a lot of people migrate from Travis to Circle, to other CI service, because this was the default Xcode. But Travis wasn't able to keep up with that. So we couldn't build anything for like a month. It was awful. But there's a light in the end of the tunnel, and it's called Fastlane. How many of you heard about Fastlane before? Thank you. Yeah, Fastlane, it's amazing. Fastlane, it's a whole environment, a framework, a library, offers you everything you need for CI. For example, he will allows you to define a lane, let's say to App Store, where I just define the actions. So I want to build the app, get the provision profiles, and ship it right away. If I want to just run tests, I define a lane for test. You can do it everything easily, no manual configuration stuff. And it's open source, which is great. It's also a Ruby gem. So if you're a proficient in Ruby, you can also do whatever you want to do it there. It's very flexible. And that's how we can make our build script better. We can just define a lane called deploy. We use this action called cert that we say, hey, I want this development certificate. This is my username. He also takes care of encryption. So if you also have to need your password. Also fetch your provision profiles automatically from the developer portal. And this is new, offers also another action to increase your build speed. So called Gym, also very cool. And also again for hockey, lets you define actions for hockey. It's amazing. And this is how it looks like, our Travis YAML file with Fastlane. Much better. You can scale much easier. It's faster, but still it's only for Apple. So if you're on Android, that's not quite done already. There's like an issue on GitHub that a guy opened about 6 months ago if he's going to do something for Android, but he said that he was started to do it, then he stopped. But anyway, you can just use the logic of a lane and define your custom scripts, and when we have something, you just add that. So yeah, that's it. Thank you.
You said that there's a possibility to encrypt the environment variables in Travis.
Yeah.
How does that encryption work? Like the Travis file has this hash, and how does it unhash? Is it like a two-way hash?
So as far as I know, you, for example, when you define something, he communicate with Travis online with their setup, and when the environment variable is on Travis, then Travis already know because he hashed it for some way there. As far as I know, yeah, exactly. It's very coupled with Travis. So it's only going to work. This is only going to work on Travis environment. We also have, by the way, we have some notebooks from Get Your Guide if you want to grab them, and also some pen. It's for free. Yeah.
I'm not sure I understood. You showed that you're using Travis to prepare different builds for one release. For example, like testing build and the build that has connection to Live API, etc. And you showed there was something about changing the bundle identifier by. I'm not sure I got it. Or
yeah, this is no. This is because there's two ways you can do that. The first one is you have a plist file on iOS, a property list, that it's a format. It's an XML actually. So I want to change that because every time you have a bundle identifier, it's unique. So I need to change that. So one way is to change directly on the plist, and you can do that using command line on Mac. And it's not very easy. The command line it's very strange. So I prefer to just, for example, leave a placeholder Then when I have something, you're just gonna have a value. When I don't have anything, you're not gonna have a value. So at the end, I have getYourGuide.mobile.develop. That's it. Or I can have getYourGuide.develop.release. So it's more or less a placeholder.
That also means that you have on Hockey app lots of apps configured, right? Like 5 or 4
Yes.
configured, and it will ship to iOS.
Yes.
I also saw that it generates icons on the fly to include the version. How is that icon generated?
Okay. Yeah. This is it's a script I grabbed from Christoph. He's also from here. I forgot his name. It's on GitHub. You can just grab the gist. It uses image magic and some other stuff or other Ruby gems, and that every time you define as a post build script, every time you build, you just grab the information and generates another icon.
I've been using Fastlane for a while,
Mm-hmm.
but currently I'm using it from my local machine, and I have that flow that after everything was prepared and built, submitted, this kind of prepared system. The Fastlane updates the version of my project. So I was thinking about using something like that on Travis, but I'm not sure if it is possible to try, because we have to modify it, yeah, and push the repository back. Push back to the repository.
Yeah. So that's okay. So that's an issue. Also, my friend had this issue. What we do now is we just every time we define a post script. Every time you run, it just updates +1 your build. It's on the project. So every time you build something, so when you ship it, it's already with the latest thing.
On each build, we increment it.
Yeah, we increment every each build.
It's hard to imagine, like 10 people working and building.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, exactly. It doesn't scale now. It's something that we did it, but I don't think it's the best solution.
Okay.
So I don't know how to make it better, if you know it. So cool. Anyway, if you remember something, I'm reachable on Twitter, or this is my email. Thank you.